Hey, everybody. All right. So, I want to go over some poetry notes with you that we're going to need as we get into this particular genre during our multi genre unit. So, the four major concepts I want to focus on today are speaker, occasion, shift, and meaning. And you're going to need these four when we look at the Chinese female kung fu superheroes poem. Okay, so let's get started. I want to use an example poem today from Langston Hughes called Dreams, and it's super short. It's just two stanzas, 4 lines each, and it rhymes. So I know we all love a good rhyming poem. So it says, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow." So obviously, I can tell that there are two stanzas that die and fly rhyme and go and snow rhyme. And both stanzas start the same way. And they're this idea of holding on to hope because if we don't, then we have these kind of tragic situations that follow, like a bird that can't fly or a barren field, right, that has no hope of growing because barren means to not produce anything else. So let's start with speaker. The speaker of a poem is that voice behind the scene, kind of like a narrator. It is not always the poet. So in this particular case, we don't really know if Langston is really saying this or if this is just a persona, right? Of this elder voice, this experienced voice that's trying to teach us a lesson. So just like the actors in a movie, the speaker of a poem, the persona of a poem just gives us directly what's happening in the piece. So I want to look at who the speaker is. The speaker is a person who understands the importance of having a dream. And not only that, they understand that dreams can slip away quickly. It's clear that whoever the speaker is of this particular poem has probably had experiences where their dreams have maybe died or they've let them go and they are wanting to encourage people to hold fast to them, meaning the sense of urgency. Don't let them, go away. And so the two major places where I can see that are where they say, "For if dreams die," or "For when dreams go," right? So I think back to when, you were little and you're trying to touch a hot stove and your parents say, "Don't do that because if you do, here are the consequences," right? These urgent consequences. And so that speaker is saying the same thing. Do this because if not, this is what's going to happen. And so they take on this role of being somebody with experience that knows the consequences of what happens when dreams go away. So the occasion is what has ever inspired or prompted the poet to write the piece. It could be an environment of ideas, like an atmosphere. It could be certain attitudes about something, emotions. Think about the setting of a movie or a story, right? For this poem, the setting could be something that has occurred that has disappointed somebody by not achieving their own dreams. Or, like my example, my second bullet point says, "Like a barren field frozen with snow." The occasion is also the result of no longer having any dreams to motivate you to push forward, right? So you'll notice in my previous example, I'm using examples from the text to kind of prove where I'm getting these ideas. So occasion, I can see that the occasion, the situation, the setting is this bird that can't fly, or this field that can't grow anything because it's frozen with snow. Sorry. So they already have two different situations within the poem that kind of give this idea of, consequences or disappointment. So then we're going to move into shift. And shift is like bumper cars, right? You're going one direction and all of a sudden you're going to a different one. And what I like to do with this one is I like to look at whatever main words there are in a text and I like to put a plus or minus on them sometimes. In this case, I can't do that, but I've highlighted them for you. So in that first stanza, that word dreams is a positive thing, right? Number one, who doesn't love to sleep? Hello, right? So dreams are a positive experience. When we have goals or aspirations, we call them dreams. And They're typically associated with motivational or positive experiences. So I'd put a plus sign on that one. That's why it's purple. But the word die and the word broken winged bird or can't fly, all of those are kind of negative things. So you can kind of see in my colors, like dreams is more positive, but everything else is kind of depressing or sad. And it happens again in the second stanza. So dreams, again, you have this positive experience, but then you have they're going, right? They're leaving, and leaving is typically it's kind of most likely seen as a bad thing. It's not necessarily always a positive change. Um, but this idea of barren field, barren again is one of those things like you don't want a barren apple tree because then it's not going to give you apples anymore. You don't want your fields to be barren because then nothing will grow on them, right? Nothing will prosper and flourish. So for me, for the shift, you want to look at where the emotions change, and that's why I look at positive and negative words, and that's the best trick that I can show you for shift. Another thing to look at is where it breaks. So you can even look at stanzas when the stanzas change, or if a poem follows a specific pattern and the pattern changes, right? A shift is like a big transition, and it could be based on lots of things. But the easiest one for me is really looking at like main words and deciding whether or not they're positive or negative words. And then you can kind of see where they change. So in the first stanza, like I said, the word dreams is positive, right? But broken winged bird, that's kind of sad when you see a broken winged bird. It can no longer really fulfill its purpose. And the same thing with the barren field, right? They're kind of hopeless. So you can look at my descriptions there to kind of give you a little bit more insight as to how I found some of those changes. And then the last one we're going to look at is meaning. And meaning isn't like a summary. When I say, what does a poem mean? I don't necessarily want just a play-by-play, right, of what happens at the beginning, the middle, and the end. Meaning is usually a deeper meaning. And there are lots of different ways that you can find a deeper meaning. And I put some right there in the top where the definition is. But if you look at imagery or figurative language, or maybe how the lines end, or where the lines rhyme, or maybe like, is there a social problem or context of the poem? Then you can find what the deeper meaning is. When a poem is looked at through different lenses, you'll figure out the meaning. So at this point, we've looked at the speaker and we've looked at the setting or the occasion, and then we looked at the shift. And so now we have 3 different perspectives that we could put together in order to find the deeper meaning of this poem. So another thing I found in this little piece is the repetition of the word life is. If anybody remembers the cliche expression, life is like a box of chocolates, right? That's a simile. Life is like something, but the word like isn't there. And so when you're comparing life to something else, then not using like or as, it's a metaphor. So in the first stanza, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. That is comparing life without dreams to this situation with the bird. Same thing, life is a barren field frozen with snow. So that repetition of those metaphors is something that we can look at when we try to figure out the deeper meaning. So notice how I respond to this, okay? Hughes uses metaphors to emphasize the importance of always holding on to one's dreams without letting anything get in the way. Did Langston say that word for word? I don't know. But to me, that is the deeper meaning, right? Hold on to them, hold fast. Don't let anything jeopardize you and achieving your dreams. Look at my second bullet point. He compares a person losing a grip on their dreams to 2 hopeless situations of a broken bird or a barren field to encourage people to keep their own dreams alive, okay? So broken winged bird that cannot fly kind of shows not necessarily death, but it shows like a lack of purpose, right? It's no longer a living dream. Or same thing with barren field. It no longer has potential to do something. And so those comparisons, those metaphors, give us that deeper meaning of why we should hold fast to dreams, because life is going to become this. And, for a lot of people, especially right now during quarantine, That's why everybody's encouraging other to really practice self-care, to really practice, looking at new hobbies or creating joy. Because if we don't hold on to hope or that someday we can do certain things, we start feeling like the broken winged bird, right? Like what potential is there? And that's a really tragic and sad and hopeless feeling to feel. And so, like our situation right now, we can argue that Langston is telling us hold fast to our dreams, right? Hope is not lost. We don't want to have these kinds of feelings of despair and hopelessness to take us over. So, hopefully, you have a little bit of an understanding of at least these four concepts of speaker, occasion, shift, and meaning. So that way now you can apply it to the next poems that we read, or maybe some that you'll write yourself. All right. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.